Mark Rogers TV talking Pac-12 football, talking NFL draft. We bring in big D tackle from Washington State, Xavier Cooper. Xavier, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing just fine. Again, thanks so much for joining us. Love to dive into your preparation for the NFL draft, and let's start with your pro day, and it happens to be tomorrow. So you went to the NFL Combine, probably got some feedback there. What have you been working on to prepare for this pro day in Pullman?
Really, I just been, staying in shape, lifting weights, doing everything I can. They're gonna try to see, try to test my condition. So I'm gonna go out here and, do all the defensive line drills and, try to showcase my athletic ability.
5 sacks last year for Washington State, 9.5 tackles for loss. If you go back a season before that, you had 13.5 tackles for loss. Those are big numbers for D linemen. When you get double teamed, when you get caught in all that traffic, aren't typically making the plays, D linemen on the interior, and you seem to get into the opponent's backfield and make plays. What are scouts saying about your strengths and what you bring to the table?
Well, I mean, my numbers don't lie. I'm the second most productive defensive tackle in this draft class. With 121 tackles, 31.5 tackles for loss, and I think 13 sacks, and this is career. So those are pretty good numbers for a defensive tackle. What teams are telling me is, that I can make an impact right away on an NFL team. I got quickness, speed, and I'm very explosive. So a lot of teams have told me that I can make an impact in my first year.
And that's something I think football fans wrestle with, Xavier, is they watch guys like you produce on the field game in, game out, and make the plays, show the football instinct, show the speed and the technique, and then you get to the combine and you almost have to become a track athlete. You strip down to the shorts and you're running around doing all sorts of drills, and that's become a focus to a certain extent, and I understand trying to evaluate the potential and the athlete, but how was the experience at the combine?
The combine experience was really, really crazy. Like I tell most people, it was more mental than it was physical. With all the psychological testing and all the doing everything was from meetings to to the medical. It was all mental. So the physical part was just when we went out there Sunday and ran around in our shorts. So that was the easy part. Well, at least it was for me.
Good stuff. Well, let's talk about your days at Washington State. You were in the middle of a football program that was on the rebuild with Mike Leach at the controls. So just talk about going back to 2013, made it to a bowl game for the first time in like a decade. Just your memories of Washington State and what you were able to accomplish, and maybe some things that stand out to you.
Washington State, great university. I met a lot of close friends here. A lot of my teammates I'm really, really close with. One of the best moments in my career was when we came back and beat University of Washington overtime in the Apple Cup 2012. That was my freshman year. So I don't think a lot of freshmen get to experience that, but I've got to experience that. And that rival is really, really a tough rival, one of the best in college football. So that was awesome. And just playing for Coach Leach, he's a real old school throwback coach. I mean, yeah, he's gonna get in your butt, if you're not doing things right, and I appreciate that because I'm taking that into real life.
Yeah, Mike Leach tells it like it is. I don't think there's any question about that. Nobody will ever debate that. And if I remember that Apple Cup game, you probably were sitting on the end of the bench or standing and watching on the edge of your seat, figuratively, because I believe there was a missed extra point that forced overtime in that game.
Yes. It was the quarterback from UW missed the field goal, so sent us into overtime. UW got the ball first, and a defensive lineman by the name of Tony Pole, who's competing in Pro Day, intercepted that ball and ran it back, but got caught on the 5-yard line. Then the next possession, we kicked it and won the game, kicked the field goal, won the game.
Good stuff. When you beat the rival, and especially when nobody expects you to beat them, they're the big favorite, and you pull it off. That's great stuff, especially in overtime there. One other thing for you that interests me as we go forward, the turnover rate in college football is at a high rate because you guys are only around for 3 or 4 years. So we probably don't know about some possible impact players on this Washington State team in the making. So can you give us kind of a preview of some guys that you played with that you feel really good about that maybe we haven't heard about yet?
There's a guy, who played, who people watch my film, speed rusher. That's usually to my left or my right. Cache Palacio. Um, he's really, really athletic, number 40. Not a Probably translate more to an inside outside linebacker in the NFL, but play defensive end. He's a guy to look for next season, as well as Daniel Ikawale. He's a defensive tackle um, out of American Samoa. About 6'3", 290, very, very athletic and strong. So those two guys right there, gonna turn some heads next year.
Xavier Cooper joins us, Washington State D tackle, preparing for his pro day and the NFL draft. One more thing I'd love to hit you on here, Xavier, is Pac-12 play just about the best in the nation,
Yeah.
arguably right there with the SEC. Talk about maybe some players that you faced on the O-line that really impressed you, maybe the best, if you can come up with one name or two names that really impressed you along the offensive front.
You know, I saw a lot of good offensive linemen come through the Pac-12. A guy that I think who's going to be really well is Joshua Garrett from Garnett from Stanford. He was, I think he stayed back this year. I think he was a redshirt sophomore this past year, but he was really, really good. I think he'll be one of the top guys to come out in the next 2 years. He's an offensive guard. He was really talented.
Good stuff. Xavier Cooper, defensive tackle, Washington State, preparing for the NFL draft. Xavier, we know with Pro Day tomorrow, with workouts, trying to make your best showing possible, you've got a lot of things on your mind, a lot of things going, so we appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.